I can't believe this. So I booked this guest yesterday, and it has to do with a Portland case, and it has to do with child sex crimes and the way that AI tools are being used not only to produce child pornography by people going out on the internet, Facebook, wherever, finding a child's face and using AI to create child pornography. And then this morning, if you were listening to the news, you just heard me report that a Roseburg man, which is just to the south here in Eugene, because our guest is listening on the phone right now, was sentenced to 14 years in prison because he had shared and had in his possession over 740,000 pieces of video and photographs of child porn that he was freely sharing on the internet. So JoDee Neal joins us on the Wake Up Call. She's been on before. She's an expert on child abuse, sex abuse, and she's a survivor of it. She also spent many years prosecuting crimes against children and advocating for kids. She has a new book, Outcry, Witness, which explores the legal, psychological, and human impact of breaking the silence around child sexual abuse, and she joins us on the Wake Up Call. JoDee, thanks for being with us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
Okay. I mentioned to you as we were setting up this interview yesterday that it just seems like every day there is some sort of story about somebody that's sentenced, somebody that's caught, somebody that's being investigated for child sex abuse, and then the story came across about this guy that was sentenced yesterday in Roseburg. Has it always been this bad, or are we only getting better at catching these people?
It has not been this bad always. What has changed is we have the additional threat of the apps, the technology, and now the AI. So while there has always been an arousal for prepubescent children in our world, there has never been this much access and prevalence, in my opinion.
So in other words, there's just more beer for the alcoholic is what I'm hearing you say.
Sadly, yes. And what we're learning from the detectives who work these cases is that the algorithms are actually making it worse on the defendant side, too. For example, a defendant might be looking at a dancing video of a girl who says she's 18. Well, the algorithm's going to keep pushing more videos like that to her, and next thing he knows, he says, is that he knows that these girls are not 18 anymore. And he might not have gone to choose that, choosing instead to regulate himself, but the algorithm is pushing him, and now he has an arousal for younger girls.
So in other words, we're creating more of it because of the algorithms?
I believe so.
Okay, that's really disgusting.
Yeah.
What are the laws surrounding, taking a kid's face? I know that different states have different laws in regards to the use of AI to create fake videos, fake photographs of people. Oregon just passed one in the last legislative session that had to do with AI revenge porn. But what goes on with that if you just have a picture and then essentially through AI, literally you just animate your own child pornography? What are the laws surrounding that, or is it just the Wild West right now?
Oh, there are almost no laws regulating big tech. And one of the issues that we have is that there's a 1996 law called Section 230, which limits basically all liability from civil lawsuits for any big tech company, and it's highly arguable that AI is included. So basically, if you discover that your child's image has been taken from a perp on Facebook who saw it in a Facebook group, for volleyball, you can't sue the app. You can't sue the app for negligence for making that happen, even though we know from very few lawsuits that there have been that these are calculated decisions being made by big tech. They know of the threats to our children, and they're choosing to act in their best interest, not in our children's best interest. Now, the Take It Down Act went into effect just last month, and that is enforced by the Federal Trade Commission and requires the photo to be taken down within 48 hours. So that's one small protection that we have.
Okay, it requires it to be taken down within 48 hours, but that assumes, I guess, that the victim has to discover it and go, wait a minute, that's a nude photo of me on whatever. You need to take that down. Is that what that means? In other words, it could be posted there for 5 years and the person finally sees it, or somebody tells him or her about it and then they go, hey, take it down? Yes.
You've discovered a major weakness with this particular law, and that's the risk that comes with doing these things piecemeal. We really need to get all the lawmakers at the table for a 5-alarm fire and come up with a comprehensive child protection plan.
What are the chances of that happening?
Man, we got to get more parents at the table. I think the chances are decent if we can get all of us mobilized. I like to refer to Mothers Against Drunk Driving. They did a great job, and they still do, making legislators do what needs to be done to protect the public. But it seems like we need to get the message across to parents that if you're a parent in 2026, you need to also prepare to be a lobbyist. We're being called upon in ways that are very new and unexpected, and we have to rise to the occasion and meet the moment.
Why wouldn't a big tech company trying to get ahead of this make themselves at least look like the hero and put an end to it as far as, okay, you're not going to be able to use our particular AI program. You're not going to be able to use our particular social media program, whatever, to do this kind of stuff. It's verboten. Why
great question.
Why wouldn't, that seems like that would be the with all of the ill will towards social media and AI firms right now, it seems like it would be the perfect PR scheme to just get in front of it and go, hey, look at what we're doing. We're good guys. We're trying to protect kids and so on. Why wouldn't you?
Well, we have to accept that basically the big tech lobby is a combination of big oil, big asbestos, big tobacco, all combined. They outspend the gun lobby 10-1 in Washington, D.C. And why? Because eyeballs are more valuable to them than anything else. And there are far more perps using social media than there are children. And the perps have money, and they do things, and the advertisements work. We know from the New Mexico trial that has taken place, which is a very interesting study, that Meta chose to deploy end-to-end encryption because it suited their business interests. They were trying to compete with WhatsApp. And so they wanted to assure adults that their conversations would be private. And that caused a domino effect of reporting of child sexual abuse material to be reduced by something like 65% that year. So we know that they're making choices that suit their business interest. And sadly, if you look at the New Mexico case, the jury rendered a $375 million verdict against Meta, and it didn't even affect their stock prices.
So what you're saying is it needs to be even more, there needs to be bigger teeth.
Basically.
Interestingly.
And really we have to force them at the legislative level.
Originally I was going to talk about this Portland case, but and I'm going to bring it up right now. The Portland Police Bureau Child Abuse Team lead detective John Richardson was discussing this with the media, and he said, and I'll quote him, "We don't have enough investigators to work on all of these cases right now. We investigate probably 20% of the cyber tips that come in just because we don't have the manpower." I mean, are we at a point at this juncture where the floodgates are open and we're really not going to stop it, considering that there is a lack of will to try and put some responsibility on the backs of these large companies?
From a parent perspective, I think we have to assume that. I think we have to assume that every rectangle sitting in front of your child's face is a potential predator. And it's going to take time. It's America can be very frustrating, but it's going to take time to rein this in if we're able to pull together the will to do it. I'm sure you saw the Pope recently delivered a very long speech about AI. Humanity is at a crossroads, and we have to choose each other, or are we going to let big tech phase us out, basically?
All right. A couple of quick suggestions here. What do you do to protect your own kid from all of this stuff? I know parents, including myself, love the technology because of the quiet that is produced. But that is when there is the most danger to our children. And I know we love the technology because it gives us a break to catch up on household chores and what have you. But the fact is, you need to be looking, even my child has a public school issued Chromebook, and there are almost no controls for YouTube searching. Microsoft Chromebooks are actually on the Dirty Dozen list for the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. So I have to go and look at my child's Chromebook history on their laptop, in addition to removing handheld technology from the children and having to listen to those complaints. So I fear to say drastic measures have to be taken. All right. JoDee, unfortunately, we're out of time. We appreciate you joining us on the Wake Up Call this morning. Give people your website if they want to find out more, kind of what the activities are that you're involved in and about your book, Outcry Witness. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having the conversation. You're very brave and a visionary. My book is called Outcry Witness. It's a former prosecutor's guide to healing and justice after sexual violence. And it's really for everybody. We know that 45% of adult American women have survived contact sexual violence, 1 in 4 little girls, and 1 in 6 men. So everyone needs this book, and my website is jodeeneal.com. I do all kinds of speaking and training, and I love being a part of this conversation. Thanks again for having me.
We appreciate having you on. We'll have you on again in the future, I'm sure. JoDee Neal on the Wake Up Call. It's News Radio 1120 KPNW.